Hello and welcome to Chuck's Culture Channel, your YouTube home for lively conversation on the lively arts in St. Louis and beyond. And today, my guests are Nina Ferrigno, the founder and artistic director and executive director of the Missouri Chamber Music Festival, as well as the pianist for the Calyx Piano Trio. Also, mezzo-soprano Janna Baty. We'll be talking about the 14th annual festival this coming June 2024, the theme of which is Game Changers and the music of our surroundings. The festival opens with a free reception on June 6th at the Mildred Kemper Art Museum on the Washington University campus, which you see behind me virtually right now. The festival includes Schoenberg's Eerie Pierrot Lunaire and Stravinsky's The Owl and the Pussycat, both featuring Janna Baty, as well as music by Haydn, Schumann, and Brahms, along with contemporary composers Gabriella Lena Frank, Missy Mazzoli, and Caroline Shaw. For details, check out the links in the video description field below. And now, as usual, a bit of the old video. Okay, and here I am on Chuck's Culture Channel, and here are my special guests, Nina and Janna. And folks, welcome to Chuck's Culture Channel, and welcome to our discussion about the Missouri Chamber Music Festival. Nina, since you are pretty much in charge of the whole thing, let's start with you. I know your first event coming up is on June 6th, which, as we are recording this, is in the future. It's a gala at the Kemper Art Museum behind me, so tell us about that and what else is coming up for the 14th season.
Sure. So I'm not sure gala, it's the right word, because it's just a little opening reception with some speaking about what's coming up for season 14 of the Missouri Chamber Music Festival. It's really great that behind you is a scene of the Mildred Kemper Art Museum, because with that partnership with the Kemper this year, we've been able to really do some ambitious programming, and we're just thrilled to be able to present our concerts, a couple of events anyway, in the beautiful space of the Kemper. So that first reception is June 6th at 6 p.m. And it's free. You do need to register for the event, just in case, we don't want to break any fire codes. And like I said, we'll be actually hearing from Sabine Ekman, who's the main curator of the Kemper Art Museum, as well as Florent Gis, who's the composer of Huis Clos, which is a world premiere, will happen at the Kemper on June 21st. And I'll be there speaking too. So we're connecting a lot of the musical pieces and a lot of the inspiration behind musical creation with the German expressionism of the Kemper Art Museum. And Sabine Ekman is expert in that particular genre of art.
You know, I want to come back to that in just a second, but first of all, there is a theme for the season.
Yes. So this year is called Game Changers and the Music of Our Surroundings. And what I was thinking of when kind of coming up with the programming and the thrust to the programming was talking about those pieces that had like a really lasting impact, some quite purposefully, you know, through their emotional impact, but also some kind of accidentally in the sense of, the Schumann Piano Quintet. Schumann was the first composer to think about adding a piano to a string quartet, and it had really just become a main instrumentation of this romantic chamber music. So we're doing a concert called Dream Machine. That's our second concert event, which is June 13th at 7 p.m. And we'll be pairing the Schumann Piano Quintet with a modern piano quintet by Gabriella Lena Frank called Ghost in the Dream Machine.
Oh, okay.
Just seeing that lasting impact. And of course, Pierrot Lunaire and just the musical innovation of Arnold Schoenberg. And it was definitely he was a definite game changer in composition, and that piece was a game changer. Extremely modernist work, and it's a bit of so it's a piece that is for a unique ensemble, which has now and forever after this piece been known as a Pierrot ensemble. So it involves piano, cello, violin that doubles viola, clarinet, which doubles bass clarinet, and flute doubling piccolo. And then there's this incredibly soloistic, melodramatic role for soprano. If please correct me if I'm wrong, Janna, you don't sing all that much, right? You do I
sing about the 6 pitches in the entire thing.
Yeah. So
it's funny to say that it's not pitched. And if you were to look at the music, and I don't mean to interrupt, Nina, the music is interesting in as much as it looks as though it's just a regular song. But if you look at the vocal part, the stems for all the notes, let's say 99.998% of the notes have like a little X through them, which indicates that you're supposed to speak them in that pitch. So what you hear more or less is the contour of a melody, if it can be called that the composer conceived of. But really what the voice is doing is sort of rising and falling as your voice naturally would as you were speaking. So, except it's not always natural in speech like the way Schoenberg does it. It sounds creepy and spooky or intimate or violent or all these things. And so he makes it sound like a person is sort of uttering these surrealist poems in a way that seems very outrageous and kind of spooky and actorly. But what the singer or the performer, the vocal performer, is doing is having their voice follow a very specific melodic contour. So even though it sounds very improvisational and sounds very peculiar, it's actually very specifically notated. Am I going to be 100% accurate on these things? 100%, Nina. Don't worry about that. No, but the idea is excellent. The idea is that you follow the contour rising and falling with the emotion, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Pairing the Schoenberg Pierrot Lunaire with the commission, which is the world premiere of a piece by Florent Gis called Huis Clos, it is showing the influence of Sprechstimme on a modern day composer. Laurent is a video artist, and he makes out of what he samples and what his videos are. He creates a video melody from the different pitches of whatever it is he captured. So he is thinking about this particular piece as kind of, he calls it an etude for the apartment, because he had a kind of period of confinement over this winter due to some health concerns.
Oh.
And he was just going around and taking all of these kind of, well, the music of his surroundings and kind of these banal everyday things, and then finding the music within them and creating this piece. And that's going to be for piano trio and video and some electronics as well.
Okay.
So after the opening reception on June 6th, the first concert of the festival is called Entr'acte, and that's on Monday, June 10th at 7 p.m. at the First Congregational Church of Webster Groves. There'll be some music of Brahms and Haydn and Caroline Shaw. The second concert that we were talking about is called Dream Machine. That's the one with the piano quintets. And that's on June 13th at 7, also at the First Congregational Church. And then for the first time ever, we're splitting the Missouri Chamber Music Festival across 2 weeks. So our next concert is our morning music concert, which is very popular. That'll be Wednesday, June 19th at 10:30 a.m. at the Desley Concert Hall at the 560 Music Center, part of Washington University. And then the last concert, Concert 4, which we're calling Pierrot, is on June 21st at 7 p.m. at the Mildred Lane Kemper Art Museum. And the first event, the opening reception, as well as the last concert on the 21st are both free, but you just need to register. So we know you're coming, and we know that there's a seat for you. But all tickets and everything you can
find
register
down here
through our website, which is printed there, I'm sure. But
it's underneath us as we speak. Yes.
Yes.
So we know that. Janna, I didn't want to leave you out of this conversation because I don't know, is Pierrot the only thing you're doing this season, or are you going to be involved in any of the other events?
I am very lucky to be involved in this series at all. And as you'll hear, Pierrot is quite it's a long song. It's a lot of really intense music, and so that's more than enough as far as I'm concerned here.
But you are singing.
Oh, that's right.
We are doing, on the morning concert, we're doing the Stravinsky Owl and the Pussycat.
Oh, okay.
One of Stravinsky's last songs, and many think his absolute great, and it's a 12-tone, and it's on the Lear poem, Owl and the Pussycat. Mm-hmm. It's something that I've just, since I was a child, loved this song. And so I'm thrilled to be able to have the chance to do it with Janna.
Oh,
forgot. Yeah. I neglected to mention that, but it's quite amazing, actually. It's shorter in scope than Pierrot, but it is very impactful in ways I won't give away the punchline. But anyway, it's quite wonderful. Yeah, it's a pretty major undertaking. It's like two sort of interlocking mini Sprechstimme operas, if you will. Oh, okay. So it's a wonderful thing to be involved in, and it's a big chunk of work. So
it's really incredible. It's very sparse. The piano plays just a single line in each hand, and it's in octaves with itself. So, but it's also trying to show, in terms of the overall programming in the festival, this idea that, Schoenberg, who he went through this complete atonality and finally went into serial music where he's having a 12-tone row and really challenging the, what is next for music. And then to see that Stravinsky, at the end of his life, picks up 12-tone music and does this with it, it's just very interesting to draw those connections and figuring out how people are, what inspires them and what they change along the way, you know?
Yeah.
Different composers take this whole concept of 12-tone writing or non-tonal writing and find different ways to express themselves with it. There are so many cool exemplars of it. And if you've never heard 12-tone music before, I mean, obviously the three of us have, but I think some concert goers may sort of think, oh, well, you know, out of the frying pan into the fire. But it's incredibly interesting. And it is, if you can detach your brain from the idea that music only has value if it's got melody, you open your brain to just the incredible colors and incredible moods and incredible emotions that are contained therein. Obviously, Schoenberg is much, much different than Stravinsky. But I was actually talking with James Somerville, who is the conductor working on this concert with us. We were just doing a little bit of preliminary chatting about this and talking about some source material. And he said, well, what are some thoughts you have about opening yourself to be, to sort of hear this music in the best way possible? And I said, if you listen to it as though it's a movie soundtrack, you're absolutely in the right realm of things. All music is meant to inspire emotion. All music is meant to inspire thought, and it's going to be different for every listener. And every composer uses these techniques as ways of pulling out the ideas that they have or expressing the richness of the text that they're working with if they happen to be writing vocal music. And when you listen to Pierre Lunaire or to the Stravinsky with the idea that it's not melody-centric, but music doesn't have to be melody-centric, it suddenly opens you to ideas of it being suspenseful or sexy or scary or dark or cheerful or hilarious or whatever it may be. So the more you can detach yourself from the idea that melody is the point, the more you're going to get out of the music, because movie soundtracks don't do that. They play with our hearts and emotions, and they make all kinds of weird sounds and use all kinds of, you know, clashing harmonies or non-harmonies, if you will. And that's kind of the joy and the excitement in it. It's incredibly exciting music, and it's also incredibly deep and rich, and just as much so as tonal music if you approach it from the right way.
This is great, because I can hear that enthusiasm in your voice as you're talking.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I have to say, I mean, I am an absolutely avowed second Viennese school dork. Like, I really love I love Anton Weber, and I love Alban Berg. I love all of those, you know, big non-tonal guys. Okay. And I've made a lot of my bread and butter as a professional singer, singing all that extra crispy music. But if you can't fall in love with what you're doing, if you can't sort of pull out the thing about it that makes it exciting for you and convey to the audience, then you're not doing your job. And I feel so passionate about music. So and Nina and I, years ago, actually, have done plenty of extra crispy music together ourselves. Some of which was more rewarding and some of which is less rewarding. But I think we both feel the same about this. It's a masterwork of the genre. It's a towering compositional achievement. It was a huge pivot point culturally. And we both feel incredibly passionate about it. Maestro Somerville feels really passionate about it too. And I think that will come across in the performances. It's a very, very cool piece of music.
Yes, it will. And this is very important. I mean, we talk about this in cabaret too a lot, is that if you really are heavily invested in the emotion of the music, if it's something that means a lot to you, that will come through the audience.
Absolutely.
And it will work.
Yeah. What's interesting too about Schoenberg, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to suck all the oxygen out of the room here, but Schoenberg is 100% cabaret adjacent. I mean, this is the time he was writing, and if you look at his whole vocal output, there are plenty of cabaret songs too.
Yes, there are.
Tonal songs as well. So there's something, because of who wrote it and because of the era in which he was writing and because of the overall sense of aesthetics of that era, sort of late Weimar Republic, like a very spooky and scary time to be a human being in certain parts of the world. There is this enormous sense of theatricality and this sense of risk-taking and this sort of sense of nihilism and this sort of, you know, it's sort of, every time I listen to music from the Broadway show Cabaret, I think, ooh, that all resides in the same sphere. That's a Venn diagram with just a little bit of overlap. And that's where, you know, Pierre Lunaire fits quite neatly.
And I think with this particular piece too, he was Schoenberg. So the way it's structured, there are 21 poems, but they're set in 3 groupings of 7. So Schoenberg he was big into numbers, numerology, and things like that. So it's not an accident the way all of that is put together. But he was very clear about not wanting them to be thought of as songs, but each as a melodrama. And so this is really a piece that bridges into performance art. And I find that very interesting as well. And fun fact, since this is done on June 21st, and it's the equinox, it's also full moon on that particular day. I had no idea that all of this kismet was, going to make this happen, but it is. The concert will be, the sun will still be out, as it's going to be the longest day of the year. But we can think about this later on in the evening, about all of the moon talk of Pierrot Lunaire.
Right. All the lunacy that comes out at full moon. It will be fully on display.
Right.
So wrap this up. So this is all typical, especially the piece we've been talking about, of people and music who are game changers, which is your theme. And Missouri Chamber Music Festival, Nina and Janna, thank you so much for talking to me for a bit about this. And of course, all you folks out there watching this, remember, you can find out everything you need to know about this. Just look down here. There we go. Down there in the video description field, you'll have all the information about when and where all the events are taking place. Missouri Chamber Music Festival, 14th anniversary. And by the way, I do this for free and do not take ads, so please spread the word about Chuck's Culture Channel to your friends on the internet and elsewhere. Nina, Janna, thanks very much for your time today. And everybody else, see you later on the internet. Bye.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
Bye.